Hello guys and welcome to President Academy. In this video we'll be looking at CSS positioning. So basically CSS positioning is just like arranging boxes in a room, and there are actually 5 ways of positioning boxes or elements in CSS. So we'll be exploring each of these ways. First of all, we have the static, the relative, the absolute, fixed, and sticky. So we'll be exploring each of these one after the other. So first of all, here in our HTML, let's write a simple code that will help us understand these concepts very well. I'll start here, div.static. I will give this first div a class called static, and here I have my static. So the next one, div dot relative, and I'll call it relative. So next I have is div dot absolute, and I will call it absolute. Next I have is div dot fixed, and I have my fixed. And lastly I have the div dot sticky, and I call it sticky. So let's review what we've written so far. Let's go live. So here is what we have. We have the static, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. Now let's proceed to our CSS to style this using the CSS position. So first of all, the body, for our body, I'll give it a margin of 0, 0, and padding 0. And also the font family should be sans serif. So let's preview. So you can see that the font has changed, and our text now moved to the edge of the screen. So let's proceed with our styling. So the first thing we'll be styling is the div, like all the div. So the div are the container holding each of these tests. This static, this relative, absolute, fixed, sticky. They are all inside a div, which is a box holding them. So let's tie the box. So the first thing, the width of the box should be 150 pixels, and the height of the box should be 100 pixels, and we give it a color, a white color. We'll give it a white color. And also the padding, let's give it a padding 10 px, and margin of 20 pixels. Margin of 20 pixels. So this should be all for the let's preview. So the reason you can't find any right up here is because we changed the color of the div to white. So we changed to white, and all our tests now, they are currently white color, and this is a white background, so you can't actually see them. But as we proceed to work on each of those div, you will see them. So let's work on the first one, which is static. let's work on static. So just say dot static, and we'll give it a background color. Let's call it gray, and the position should be static. So here you can see our box now has appeared, and you can see it's ash color. Now let me explain this static. Setting your position or your box position as static is just like the default. Static is like the normal way. Elements are being stacked on top of each other. You don't need to even write position static. On a normal, in your web page, in your website, elements are stacked on top of each other. It is the normal default setting. So this static is just like, okay, this is the normal way this is being done. So next we're working on after static is next on our list is relative. So we have relative. Now for relative, we'll give it a background color of green. Background color should be green, and the position should be relative. Relative, then add effects like the top 20 pixels and the left should be 20 pixels. Now let's look at this. So you can see this is our relative. So the relative position, it will set this element or it will set this box relative to where it would normally be. It stays in the normal document flow, like it stays in the normal document flow, but it can be moved slightly using the top left, right, or bottom, which is those effects we use. We use top and left. Let me give you a simple analogy. So imagine you are sitting at your normal seat in a class, which is your natural position. Now you adjust your chair a little to the right. That's like the relative position. You stay in the normal flow, but you can move slightly from where you are supposed to be. So that's the work of the relative under positions in CSS. You are in your normal position, like the normal place you are meant to be. As you can see, for static, it is here where it's meant to be. But for relative, it is still here, but it moves slightly. It moves slightly to this side. Now, let's look at the next one. Next one is absolute. So, dot absolute. For absolute, the background color should be blue, and the position should be absolute. We give the top of 100 px, and left of 200 px. So let's preview. Now you can see where absolute is. Now assuming I remove this position, let's do something now. I will remove the position for absolute. Now this is where it was meant to be. You can see this absolute. It was meant to be here. But when I add that absolute as the position, it moves from staying here to this place. So for elements that are placed in the absolute position, they are relative to the nearest parent. The nearest parent with the relative position. Just like this green now, this is the parent, this is the tag now with the relative position, this green. So this absolute will stay close to, they will stay relative to the nearest person, or the nearest, let's just call down the nearest color with the relative position, which is this green. So the absolute is removed from the normal flow and placed freely on the page using top, left, etc. And if I'm to give an analogy, just imagine a drone flying inside a building. It doesn't sit on the floor like the other chairs. Those chairs are like the elements. It is floating freely, and it positions itself based on the nearest wall, and that nearest wall is the parent that is relative. This is the one, this green is relative. So it will position itself based on this relative position. I don't know if you're understanding my concept, but this thing will get clearer as we proceed. Let's just write the codes. So next one is fixed. Next one is fixed. So the background color, give it red, and the position should be fixed. So the top 0 and right 0. So let's preview. Now you can see where this fixed came to stay. I wouldn't explain this now. Let's proceed with sticky. So the sticky, we'll give it background color orange, and the position should be sticky, and the top should be 0. Now look at where this sticky came to stay. So let me do something now that will make us understand this whole concept very well. So let me come here and add a p tag and type something. So I will just to copy this and duplicate it. And I'll paste it. So let's look at what we've done. Now this will be a perfect way on to explain each of these positions. So let's scroll down now. As I'm scrolling down, what did you notice? Static is moving, absolute is moving, relative position is moving, sticky is moving, but fixed is not moving. Fixed is not moving. So as the name implies, the fixed position, it positions the element relative to the browser window. The element will stay in the same spot even when you scroll the page, and it's often used for nav bars or floating buttons. So those nav bars you usually see, it will not be good that, okay, you someone is scrolling down your web page, scrolling down your web page, and then um for them to move to the next, maybe to the next phase of the website, they'll have to scroll up again just so that they can get navbar. For navbar, we usually use this fixed position. So as you scroll down, the navbar will still be showing. So just in case maybe you get to the bottom of the website or the web page, you can quickly move out to the other part of the website you want to go to. So as you scroll down, this fixed position doesn't move. Now let's leave fixed. Look at observe sticky. If you observe the sticky, it was moving until e got to the top and then e stopped moving. So the sticky position is a mix of relative and fixed. The element scrolls normally until it reaches a certain point, then it sticks to that point like it is fixed. The element can, if you notice it, the box, it was scrolling normally until it got to the top and then it became fixed. So the fixed that's how the sticky position works. It floats or it flows until it gets to the top and it becomes fixed at that point. So notice the difference. The fixed position doesn't move at all, whereas the sticky moves until it gets to the top and then it becomes fixed at that point. And for the static position, I've told you guys this one is just like the default. It's just how your elements are arranged in your website. That's the default pattern of arrangement in your website is under the static position. And for relative, though not visible like the fixed or sticky, but what it does is that it it leaves the element where it's supposed to be, but then maybe shifting it slightly. On the normal, this relative is supposed to be on still the same line with static, but if you notice, it was shifted slightly. It was shifted slightly from the left. So that is the work of the relative position. And all of these are under how you can arrange your elements, in CSS. And for absolute, we said it is removed from the normal flow and it is placed on the page. It's placed fully on the page, anywhere on the page. It's not like static that is by default, it follows normal pattern. It's not like fixed that doesn't move. It is not like the sticky that moves until it gets to the top and then it stop moving. It's not like relative that maintains its position but moves slightly. This absolute just comes anywhere, can stay anywhere on the website or web page, but it must stay close or nearest to the parent. Dat parent now is the closest or the nearest relative position. If okay, let's example this grey colour was the relative position. It would have stayed close to this grey colour. Assuming it was this red that was the relative position, it would have stayed close to this red. Assuming it was sticky. But why it is staying here is because of this relative. This green This green has a relative position, so that's why it's staying close to it. But this absolute can stay anywhere but closer to the elements with the relative position. So I guess my explanation is clear and understand positioning in CSS. So this will be all on positioning in CSS or CSS positioning. If you enjoyed the video, ensure you subscribe, like, and drop a question in the comment section.